He came to the BBC, we conducted the interview. Immediately after the interview, I'm told 3 people from Special Branch were in BBC premises. They arrested the man. And so, you know, very dramatic events tonight. In the interview itself, I think it shows quite an interesting portrait of Abu Nusaybah, or an interviewee, and also the suspect, Adebolajo. And I started by asking him about his early childhood biography. How long have you known Michael Adebolajo?
We met roughly around 2002, early 2002.
Yeah. And where did you meet?
We met in Romford, Essex.
And what was the circumstances of you meeting? Was it a social contact? Was he a friend? Or?
No, I mean, I used to go down there like to chill out with some of my friends, basically. And during the course of going down there, we kind of, like, I think one day we just bump into each other. It's kind of like strange, because we didn't quite often see a lot of like black guys down there. So it was like, how are you? What's going on? How's everything? And we kind of exchanged numbers, and you know, from there, kind of the relationship built up.
And at that time, were you both non-Muslims? Because I understand you were both reverts to Islam.
I mean, I wasn't in Islam because I came to Islam 2004, late 2004, basically, and he came in about 4 months after me, basically.
Now, it is well known, it's established on the record that he was known and he knew Omar Bakri Mohammed and Al-Mahjaroon at the time. Did you know him in those circles? Yeah.
I mean, he used to attend some of the activities there, but he was quite an independent guy. He was never stuck to one particular group or anything like that. He would go to various circles, listen to various people and so forth. So he wasn't really kind of like stuck only with, you know, Omar Bakri or Anjem Chowdhury and so forth. Like, he would float about, basically.
But he knew them?
Yeah, he was aware of them, yes. I mean, he had attended 1 or 2 events, yes.
But at that time, I mean, obviously I've interviewed Omar Bakri Mohammed on many occasions, and Anjem Chowdhury too.
Yeah.
One of the core beliefs and things that they aspire to is Sharia law, for example, in the UK.
Yeah.
Was that your position and his position at the time?
Myself, I had that position, which changed later on. But Michael never took that position, actually. He thought it was more sensible, you know, for Muslims to live in Muslim lands and basically want to, you know, live by the Sharia in Muslim lands. He thought that made more sense as opposed to basically living in the West and trying to basically implement the Sharia here.
So did he consider emigrating to a Muslim land?
Yeah, I mean, he did many times. You know, I remember he wanted to do some qualifications in relation to teaching, and he wanted to do a qualification in relation to fitness training as well, I think, which he eventually did. And he wanted to really kind of use that to maybe go abroad and, you know, live in a Muslim country.
Well, that's some of the background to the suspect, Adebolajo. But did Abu Nusaybah give us any clues as to what actually turned a switch in this man's head and made him into this violent person, potentially?
He did. He said that about 6 months ago he had a conversation with him in London, and he says that Adebolajo told Abu Nusaybah, our interviewee, that he had had a very bad experience in Kenya. And now we don't have any way of independently confirming this, but this is the account he gave us. He said he travelled to Kenya, he was arrested and picked up by the Kenyan authorities. He alleges he was tortured and abused, and he says that he noticed that fundamentally changed his mindset after that experience. I think we're going to see something here. Now, you describe Michael Adebolajo as, in a way, as a gentle man, the way you're describing him.
Yeah.
The contrast with someone who is capable of murdering someone on British streets is very, very stark indeed.
Definitely.
How do you understand that?
Yeah. I mean, I believe certain events that happened to him recently kind of had an impact in shaping, you know, that change. And although that change wasn't necessarily one that became overt, you know, aggressive or anything like that, he just became more kind of, you know, reclined and less talkative and so forth, like he wasn't his bubbly self, basically, you know. And the recent events were, you know, about 6 months ago, he basically just turned up one day, you know, just knocked out of the blue, no number, no anything. And he said that, look, basically what's happened, I went to study in Kenya. And, you know, when I got to Kenya, in a particular village, we were rounded up by Kenyan troops, basically. And we were taken to basically a prison cell. okay, and were all interrogated one by one. And he said that basically when my turn came, basically I didn't speak to them, obviously, because generally like here you say no comment and so forth, so I wouldn't accept, to speak to them. And he said that basically the officer said, you're not in the UK. He said basically, taking his private part side, he said, I'll F you, basically, if you don't speak. So, and basically he said that they beat him quite badly. And his comment was, he said, wallahi. Wallahi means, it's like an oath, say, I'm not lying, meaning by God, that I feel shy to describe to you what they did to me, basically. These were his exact words. I feel shy to describe what they did to me, basically.
Did he tell you that he was physically and sexually assaulted?
He told me he was physically assaulted. He told me he was sexually threatened. And he indicated, from what I know of him, when he said, I couldn't, I feel ashamed to tell you what happened to me. As far as I understand that, it's sexual abuse, because there's nothing he will feel shy to tell me about except that.
And when did he tell you that, roughly?
This is roughly about 6 months ago. It's just an estimate.
And did you have any doubt that he was telling the truth at that time?
No. If you looked at his face, and he was holding tears back, basically, when he was mentioning it. My impression when I heard it is I wanted to hug him. He's a close friend of mine. And I wanted to kind of hug him, like a brother, to say it's okay, it's fine, don't worry about it.
So your judgment is that he had quite a profound change of personality after that?
Definitely, he just became. It's almost like you'd say to him like, oh yeah, we should get, we should try to give dawah, invite people to Islam. He'd just be like, yeah, like meaning it's almost like his mind was somewhere else, but his presence was there, basically.
Did he give any indication to you that he was capable of such horrific violence? No. I mean,
when I saw the photos of him initially, I thought it was a joke. I thought, like, no, like, are you serious? Like, no, it can't be him. There's no way it can be him, because it didn't make sense, because his whole concept, was he just wanted to go and live in the Muslim land, basically, and just basically get away from all the problems and all the troubles, basically, because at that time he was basically being harassed by MI5. This is something that he specifically mentioned to me. He said that MI5 had come to him. I think on his return back, he had been stopped. And subsequently after that, basically, he was followed up by MI5. He said they came to his house. They were saying, knocking his door. He pretended that he wasn't there. But they were knocking so much, he thought to himself, like, look, you know what, I need to kind of like, come and show my face. So he came out, he spoke to the MI5 agent. And they were saying that, look, we just want to have a chat with you. We just want to speak to you.
So when did he tell you this?
This is roughly about 6 months ago, roughly.
And what was his reaction to being approached by the security service MI5?
Yeah, his situation was that, his wording was, Ak means brother, they're bugging me, like they just keep, they won't leave me alone, basically.
Did he explain what they wanted?
He mentioned that initially they wanted to ask him whether he knew certain individuals, basically. That was the initial issue. But after him saying that he didn't know these individuals and so forth, what he said is they asked him whether he would be interested in working for them.
And do you think he did end up doing any work for them or not?
No, I mean, he was explicit in that, he refused to work for them, but he did confirm that he didn't know the individuals that they asked him whether he knew.
Well, there's a lot of allegations there, Richard. We'll come to them in a second. But on the MI5 point, a lot of people watching that will be thinking that was MI5 doing their job.
No, absolutely. I mean, we don't have any way of verifying this, of course. But what I would say in general terms is that the security service will, of course, approach people to provide information or even act as covert sources. This is part of the work they do more generally. I don't think we can expect them to comment on the specifics of this case. But I think in general terms, it's not out of the ordinary to expect a security service to approach people for information.
And in terms of what we heard about Kenya there, I mean, Kenya for some people is a tourist destination, but Kenya for some other people is a route into Somalia and to joining Al-Shabaab, which is an Al-Qaeda affiliate, and also Kenya itself has had a severe terrorist problem.
Yes, indeed. It certainly is. And, you know, on this man's account, we hear that, that he was picked up by the Kenyan authorities. Again, we don't have any way of substantiating this at the moment. It's plausible as a story, one could say that. We will have to wait and see whether we can actually get other corroborating evidence to back that up. And
in terms of your interviewee, Abu Nusaybah, what was his reaction to these horrific events a couple of days ago? And if he knew, I mean, would he have done anything to stop something like this?
Yeah, he was quite clear, actually, in the interview. I mean, he is quite open about having been influenced by Bakri Mohammed al-Muhajirun, this Islamist group, in the past. However, he was very clear tonight in saying that if he had been told, which he said he wasn't, about any plans for these kind of horrific violent attacks, he would have done his best to dissuade this young man from carrying those out. He says it's not justified.
And his reaction actually to what he saw then?
Yeah,
the horror that everybody else had? Or
he tells me he was horrified by it. Yeah, he couldn't believe it when he saw the images. He couldn't believe this was the young man he used to hang around with in 2002, 2003. He was very, very shocked, so he says.